The assignment, the final chapter, written and narrated by Chris Topp. The truth is, in the end, Kelly chose the man she loved. It's that simple. Cans bounced around, smacking the pavement behind my bright red pickup truck. Kelly and I drove into Gatlinburg with "Just Married" painted on the back windshield and along the sides of my brand new 91 Sonoma. Shiny gold rings on each of our hands completed the perfect honeymoon portrait. We were barely in our 20s and everything was falling into its place. The both of us were together at last. Cars buzzed by and honked while fellow vacationers yelled, "Congratulations!" We both waved back and thanked everyone as we made our way up the mountain road. If I had to guess, romance was probably born in places high up like the Smokies or sandy beaches. We'd saved up enough money for a 5-star hotel the first day, but the final 2 would be spent in a simple cabin at the KOA Campground in Cherokee, North Carolina. I'm happy we were able to get a new truck before the trip, Kelly. The old Cutlass probably wouldn't have made it this far. I'm happy I got to go with you to pick it out that day, she said from the passenger seat. Man, this traffic keeps getting thicker and thicker the closer we get to Gatlinburg. I managed to get out before the next 2 cars whizzed by wishing us an enthusiastic congratulations. Kelly began to chuckle uncontrollably. She could barely breathe because she laughed so hard. "I can't believe we did this. It was such a good idea," she continues to giggle. "Yeah, turning our vacation into a fake honeymoon was a genius idea." "Wait, who thought of it? Was it you or me?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "You're allowed to have a decent idea a couple of times a year, but don't let it go to your head, Mr. Sharon, or you will end up in the doghouse." "I would not dream of letting that happen, Mrs. Sharon. Besides, you picked out the rings and helped me tie the cans on the bumper, so it was a team effort." We laughed and cut up with each other the whole way to our destination. Never in a million years would I have pictured us there together a few months prior. Please don't get the wrong idea like everyone who was honking at us. I got friend-zoned immediately the day Kelly called me. Being her friend is better than not having her in my life, so I dealt. My first spaghetti dinner for 2 ever was my initial attempt to break through the bestie barriers, but I failed miserably. We had candlelight and everything, but it didn't work. Maybe my noodles were overcooked. I don't know. Since then, Kelly has thrown up the red light so many times I finally gave up. She'll eventually get back with Lee, so I have to enjoy every moment while I can. Last year, we even went to Sears and had some goofy best friend photos made. I'd hoped that it signaled her finally coming around, but it didn't. She insisted on me losing the part down the middle of my head and moved it over to the side one evening. Ironically, she kept her Aquanet-infused hair for the picture, maybe because it made her look taller. You could even tell by looking at the photo that I was all into it, and she was like, friends, Chris. We're just friends." It was a fun day anyway. Even though we'd entered the 90s, I'd often think back at our time as kids when we'd just begun trying to figure everything out. I'm sure whenever the 80s come up in a conversation, Kelly will be the first thing I think of for the rest of my life. My childhood was full of tragedy, possibly more than should have been thrown at a kid. It was like I'd been given a clean slate when that girl stepped into my life, and that I can never repay. Hopefully, I'll get around to thanking her for that someday. We spent our first day exploring the shops along the strip and making fun of each other. One thing about Kelly is she was never afraid to speak her mind. "Why is it that you always have to be right?" Kelly asked while we wandered through Ripley's. "You always pretend to know everything about everything when you don't. Sometimes I don't want you to answer my question. I just want you to let it stay a question. Don't be afraid to say what you mean, Kelly. Life is short, so spill your guts." "Chris, you make me mad sometimes, but it's okay. How can that guy lay on a bed of nails? That has to hurt," Kelly pondered as we checked out the exhibit. "Well, when the weight is evenly distributed," I said before my companion cut me off. "All right, stop right there." We laughed and continued looking at all the wax statues on display. We were exhausted when we made it back to the hotel that evening. All we wanted to do was eat pizza and go to bed. Kelly hopped in the shower first, and I ordered dinner and watched some TV while she was getting cleaned up. She stepped out of the bathroom in her fluffy white robe that's exclusively for newlyweds. She looked like soft-serve ice cream from Dairy Queen with that giant white towel wrapped around her head. I made fun of her before showering myself. By the time I freshened up, Kelly had already broken into the bottle of complimentary champagne provided by our host for the special occasion and seemed a bit tipsy. "Where's the pizza?" Kelly asked before taking another swig. "I ordered it an hour ago, so it should be here any minute, I guess," was my response before things got weird. "You know what I think, Chris?" "Nope, what do you think, Kelly?" "I don't think you ever ordered the pizza. I think you planned on us getting drunk so we'd end up in bed together, is what I think," she said to me before storming off to the bathroom and locking the door behind her. I tapped on the door a couple of times before having a seat on the couch, wondering what had happened. It's then I realized drunk version of my friend was an entirely different person and patiently waited for her to sober up. It's not how I imagined our only evening in the lovely hotel, but I had high hopes things would turn around. As luck would have it, they did when the pizza finally arrived. "Knock knock, pizza delivery," broke the silence and startled me. After I paid for dinner, my intoxicated friend appeared and apologized for the misunderstanding. She hugged me and we joked about it all before bedtime. Kelly fell asleep in her fluffy white robe, and I camped out on the couch the rest of the night. Before dozing off myself, I got excited thinking about our next 2 days of vacation. I pulled right up to our tiny one-room cabin nestled within a stone's throw of Spoon River. Before unpacking, we went to explore. All we had was 4 walls, a ceiling fan, and 2 double beds. Both of us agreed it was perfect. Kelly kept going on about how beautiful the scenery was as she looked genuinely happy. The expression on her face made the entire trip worthwhile. We set up camp and spent the day hiking. There's nothing like the smell of burgers over a hot campfire high in the North Carolina mountains. Kelly stopped me in mid-flip to tell me something. The look in her eyes signaled that what she had to say was important. I gave her my full attention as she invaded my bubble and spoke. "Chris, this trip with you is special, and I want you to know something." Before she could finish what she had to say, our neighbors paid us a visit. "My name is Craig, and this is my wife, Julie. I hope we aren't intruding, but we wanted to say hello." Hello," I said. The sound of the crackling fire barely muffled the pounding of my heartbeat. "This is Kelly, and I'm Chris. We just got married, and we're on our honeymoon. It's nice to meet you two." Kelly and I shook the hands of our new friends. "I can remember when Craig and I tied the knot 30 years ago. He couldn't afford an engagement ring at the time either," Julie said after noticing our wedding bands that were only days from turning green. "Yep, nothing like young love. You two are lucky. We'd give anything to go back and experience it all over again ourselves," Craig mentioned with a grin ear to ear. Julie spoke up. "Oh, you stop it. We've never been more in love than we are now. These two are such a sweet-looking couple. It's nice to have someone to spend the rest of your life with, isn't it, you two?" "Yes, it is, Julie. I love Chris and he loves me. We couldn't be happier," Kelly told her with an unusual look of sincerity. After a couple more minutes of small talk, our fellow campers disappeared into the darkness and left us alone. My spatula fell to the ground as I took Kelly into my arms for the first time since that starry April night back in 1988. Once again, she looked up into my eyes, displaying her crooked grin to signal that a kiss was all right. There we stood, wrapped together tightly in the grips of young love Craig spoke of only moments earlier. Spoon River, along with the cool Smoky Mountain breeze, played us a tune better than any mixtape I could have arranged. The smell of burning hamburgers and the infused fragrances of hot dogs and marshmallows from other nature lovers hitched a ride on the wind. The next day I drove to the nearest payphone to call work and request a couple of extra days off. Neither of us wanted this experience to end anytime soon, so we held on as long as we could. Kelly was finally my girlfriend, and I was lost in the love story that began in Mrs. Todd's speech and drama class back in high school. Each step we took to get to this point was worth every heartbreak and sleepless night wondering if it would eventually happen. We spent the next few months going on picnics and long drives together. We both questioned why it took so long to give in and let love take its course. We rented a pontoon boat one morning and spent the day on the lake at Paris Landing. I scribbled away in my thick notebook while Kelly killed time lying in the sun. She thought I was only writing poetry and had no idea our story took up most of the pages. Something in my gut told me I'd better jot down everything. Otherwise, the memories would fade. Months into our final chapter, I began to notice Kelly drifting away. It was a nasty feeling I'd pushed to the back of my mind, but it was always alive, waiting to surface. She still loved Lee, and I knew it. It wasn't the sort of love we all experience when special people flow in and out of our lives, but the kind that demands attention. There was nothing I could do but finally let her go. So I did. I let Kelly go. It wasn't easy, and I can't say it made me happy to give up, but it was her choice to make and not my own. I spent years attempting to win Kelly's heart. Even when we were together, she never truly left Lee. Don't get me wrong. Our time together was no waste because she taught me how to love deeply enough to let go. The pain was unbearable at times, but every ounce of grief was worth all of the memories floating in my head today. Our love story had no choice but to end because there were others still left to write in my lifetime. I think I'll dust off the old Rubik's Cube and give it another whirl.